Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a podcast from Beneath. This episode, we talked to Mark Cantu about his upcoming film, Massacre Academy. Unfortunately, the audio in the beginning and my audio was lost, but please enjoy this episode. It was great talking to Mark, and this one starts off with Mark and Carey talking about what got him into filming.
Barbara. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. The unburied dead are coming back to life, seeking human victims.
10-second commercial. We would do like a little, 2-minute narrative thing. And I never forgot how it felt to show my dad, like when he came home on his break, like his 10-15 minute break to get something to eat, we would pop the tape in real quick and be like, oh, this is what we did. And he would laugh his ass off. And, and it was such a great, like immediate gratification of like, yeah, we did a good job, and you just kind of get hooked on that when you're a kid. And as you get more comfortable, you start trying different things with acting and it just all grew from there. But yeah, it was just as simple as just wanting to impress your parents at some point in your life,
So the getting a video camera, I guess that was kind of the start of it. What about writing? What made you want to like write your own?
Writing was a little bit different. I mean, it was more out of a necessity than anything else. Because I really didn't think I was a writer. I didn't start really writing anything. I mean, I wrote short stories, but I could definitely see narratives in my head, and I could see scenes and things like that when I was writing short stories when I was a kid. But I didn't really understand like how to write a script. I didn't do anything. And then my brother went to UT film school, and he came back one semester, and he had a huge book that they were studying, and it had the format for screenwriting. And I was like, well, let me just kind of read through this. And I'll never forget, it was the first thing I ever read, like an official script, was the script for Taxi Driver. And I had to have been maybe 15, 16. And I remember reading that and going, wow, it reads like a novel almost. And I was like, I can write that. I can write all that description and, kind of go into detail. And then you see Taxi Driver, and there's hardly any dialogue. And it's all on the screen. And, that's what made me kind of think, oh, this is different than, writing a book. You don't need all that description. You can just write shots. You can do this, you can do that. And so then it kind of freed me up to start writing and, just saying, well, this is what I see in my head, and I'll just write each shot. And if it changes on the day, then it changes. But that was kind of the beginning stages. And then after that, you just start trying different things and move from there.
What do you find harder when you're writing a script? Is it the dialogue or like scene descriptions and scenes and all that?
To be honest with you, I always feel like my dialogue is probably one of my stronger suits. And so I come from a stage background, so I feel really comfortable kind of writing the interaction between people. I'm okay with that. I think what I always kind of struggle with, and this has happened on every movie for me, is I always struggle with, does this scene feed into the next scene? To me, it can never be just kind of compartments of a movie and go, well, this is a cool scene, this is a cool scene, this is a cool scene. For me, narratively, things have to make sense, and they have to kind of fall in a very specific way, and it has to be an A to B to C. And sometimes I fall into that trap where I'm like, well, that's a great scene, let me write that. And then I write the end of something else later on, and I go, well, then how the hell do I get from that point to that point, and how do I make it make sense? So I always have a problem with bridging things and making things make sense, because I want things to feel justified. I don't want to have it feel like we're kind of just having things happen because they look cool, or we're in the Michael Bay school of filmmaking where it's just like, and then it's nighttime because I don't give a shit, and kind of transition for no reason. To me, it has to make sense. It has to be, kind of the building blocks have to be there, and then you have to take the next step.
So do you write linear, or do you like, oh, I've got a great ending, now let me build to that?
and it happened with Massacre Academy, is for the most part I will write linear, and I'll kind of write the next thing, so that way I kind of jump off things and go, oh yeah, I did, I have to pay that thing off that I set up in that scene. But on the rare occasion, you're absolutely right. Like I will write just one specific scene. Like I'll go back and say, you know what? I know I've got these 10 scenes over here, but I really want to, like, for some reason, there's a piece of music that I'm listening to that day that just hits me the right way. And I have to get that scene out. And sometimes I'll just go, you know what? I'm just going to focus on this one scene, and I'll bridge it later. I'll make it make sense later. But right now, this is that one scene. So.
What about your characters? Are they do you tend to base characters on people that you know, or do you find it easier just to make the entire character up?
It's being somebody who's watched so many damn movies in my life. I tend to not base people on people that I know, but I wind up starting from archetypes that I've seen in other movies, and I kind of say, well, that kind of voice and that kind of persona would fit good in this particular this role for this kind of thing that I'm about to write a script on. So I'll kind of base things off of things that I've seen in other movies and go, you know what, let me write with that voice in mind. So it's not necessarily people that I take inspiration from, although I do wind up I listen to people's personal stories. So, like, say, for instance, there was a movie that we did when I was back in Texas, and it was a superhero movie called Now Hiring. And I had written a character who was kind of supposed to be within that group of superheroes. It was supposed to kind of be the default Batman of the movie. And when I met the actor that played him, his name's Jason Scarborough. When I met him, we just talked. There was a part of the audition process where we just sat and we just talked. And we talked for hours, and he let me know like where he came from, what his focus was with making movies and why he wanted to be an actor. And the more I listened to him, the more I was like, you know what, your personal story needs to go in here somewhere. Like the beats of your life need to kind of inform what happens with that character. And I went back and I did a couple of passes and rewrites, which drove people crazy, but I was like, this has to be right. And so when I finished the script, it was like, if you watch that movie, that literally is him becoming like an actor and, going from a kid who wanted to play one thing, and now all of a sudden at the end of the movie, he is that thing. And that was really kind of based on how Scarborough kind of grew up and how I grew up. So like I said, so I once I'm in the process with an actor, that's when I start taking from them personally and going, I really want to invest your life into this character as well. So.
That's pretty cool. Now, after Now Hiring, I guess, was that your first feature?
That was actually, by that point, that was my second. I had made one feature movie before that, and it was a serial killer movie back in Texas called Echo. We made it on a nothing budget. Like I said, we shot it like on a Canon XL1 at the time, and it was okay. It was the first thing that I ever had picked up for distribution. And it didn't really go anywhere. Like any indie filmmaker, like we got screwed over by our distributor at the time. There's a lot of BS behind the scenes. And so it wound up not doing anything really. But yeah, Now Hiring was the first time I had a proper budget. I had a proper crew, behind us. And even then I was still kind of learning as I was going. So, but that was like my first proper, like we had a SAG actor and we had, things, we had makeup and we had costumes and stuff. So that was my first big actual feature. So yeah.
After that was Elite.
Yeah, after that, Scarborough and I, the actor I was talking about, yeah, we wound up kind of falling in movie love on that movie. And kind of during the course of the movie, making the movie towards the end, we kind of sat back and talked, and we were like, what are you going to do? What's your next movie? And what do you want to do next after this? And we kind of got to talking, and we wound up doing a bit of a collaboration on two different ideas that we both had, which wound up becoming Elite, which is kind of like a military thriller. And it was a throwback to like the 80s action movies. And, so it's kind of like a buddy cop movie. It's kind of almost like Last Boy Scout. bit of Top Gun in there, and so just kind of like I said, just an old school throwback. Good guys versus bad guys, and let's go to war. So
sounds good. I'm gonna have to try to track some of these down. Are they available anywhere right now, or?
Yeah, actually through Amazon. I had one of our actors send me a link the other day, believe it or not, but he was, I think he found it through Amazon. I know Elite and Now Hiring are on Prime, if I'm not mistaken. Cool. But yeah, I think you can still order them. I know there's a bunch of copies on eBay. Like I've seen those links pop up as my suggested things to view, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. That's one of my movies. So. But,
all right, so
yeah, you can find them somewhere.
Okay, cool. I have to look them up. So, what was the inspiration behind Massacre Academy?
The inspiration behind it, really, honestly, at that point in my life, I was kind of coming out of a we're allowed to curse, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. So I was coming out of a really shitty time in my life. We had just moved up to Pittsburgh, and just kind of I had some personal issues that I had to overcome, and I had just done a short film as my first thing back, kind of back in the saddle directing, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could be responsible and I could be efficient on set. And so we had a great experience making that short film. It was called Last Man. It was a little quick 9-minute werewolf short film, and I had met Miranda Chapman, who's our makeup artist, and I met her on that movie, and we hit it off. Like the day she showed up is the first day I've met her, and she's doing makeup, and like we're just like, where have we been in each other's lives? Like this just makes sense already. And so probably a couple of weeks later, I finished editing, and I was sitting at work at the time, and I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, I want to do this the right way. I want to go back and I want to make a feature. And I just had to take a step back, and I was doing a lot of self-evaluation at the time. And I just thought to myself, I was like, what do I love? Why am I making movies to begin with? Why am I here? And, what are the things that made me fall in love with being in film to begin with, like when I was a kid? And I was like, well, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 78. And I was born in the 80s. My brother and I, we made short films where I was covered in ketchup constantly. And then I loved strong women. I loved, comedy and, just a mashup of, horror genre and, other things like action movies and comedies and stuff. So, and I just thought about it, and I was like, well, then whatever my next movie is, I want it to have all those things. All those components have to be there, no matter if it's difficult to do a time specific period piece, but I want those things to be there because I want to fall in love with making movies again. And so then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, then let me go back and let me think about like the things that I've done, other scripts that I had written when I was a kid. And I had written a scene in one movie that was just kind of a party massacre. And it didn't really go anywhere, didn't make much sense at the time. I was maybe 18 or 19. And I started to look at that, and I was like, there's something there, and I don't know what it is, but there's something there that speaks to me. And if I can make it something that has to do with the 80s and slashers and, blood and guts, then maybe I can jump off that. And that literally was the first scene that I went and I wrote, because that was the genesis for everything. And it's the party massacre that takes place probably about 20-30 minutes into the movie now. It's a massive scene. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of guts. There's a lot of gore. And that was the first thing that I was like, whatever that movie is, that's what I want to do. And then after that, I kind of took a step back. I took about a month off, to really put my brain around it, and just started sketching storyboards and started writing things about characters. And all of a sudden it was there. And after about maybe like 3 months of consistent thinking on it, the meat and the bones were there, and it just needed a little punch up, but it was there already. So
there was no like, I'm trying to think how to like word it. Was it I don't know how to put it. So you weren't out to make a horror movie, right? It was kind of like, I've got this one scene that I'm going to base it on, or
I think I was at that point, because I had so much fun when we did Last Man, because that was one of the first times I had really had practical effects. And one of our actors had his neck ripped open and there was blood spurting out. And that feeling on the day when we got some of those shots, like I felt like a kid again. And I was like, I want to be covered in blood. I want to be on set just making a mess. And so I think deep down, I wanted to make a horror movie because I wanted partially just an excuse to be covered in blood and, make things look icky and stuff. But, knowing that Miranda had the capability to pull it off, like made it easier to go, yeah, we're doing whatever we do moving forward has to have that horror component. And, that way we can showcase her skills too. And so I think I went into it, even with that little blip of an idea, it started that process of going, oh yeah, we are making an 80s horror movie for sure. So.
Okay, cool. How did you get Chauncey Phillips involved?
Who?
Chauncey Phillips.
Who's Chauncey Phillips?
Is he not going to be in Massacre Academy?
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Oh, okay.
No, I know who Sean is. But yeah, Sean actually contacted us when we were starting our Indiegogo campaign, and he had mentioned, he was like, hey, I'm an actor. Take a look at my reel. And he sent me his link, and he sent there's so much that he's done.
Yeah, he's been in like thousands.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that he has, like I said, his followers on YouTube and everything, and at the time we were looking for someone. There's a role in the Party Massacre, like I said, that we ultimately got him for. But the amount of stuff that he had done, the moment you look at his reel and you look at what he sent me at the time, I was just like, you get it. Like you get what the genre is about. You get what making movies is about. And more importantly, he also understands promotion. There's so many components that he brings to the table already. And so, like I said, we had that conversation over about a week or so. And so like I said, that it was probably one of the easiest castings throughout the movie. So like I said, Sean's just Sean. He's awesome. So
yeah, I watch his YouTube videos all the time. I really get into him. I think Aaron's trying to join back in here. Aaron, you got any?
Oh, there he is. We lost him.
I think he keeps dropping. We had this problem before where he keeps dropping in and out.
Oh goodness!
There he is. Are you still there? Can you hear us, Aaron?
Can you hear us?
I don't think he can hear us.
No. It's probably the same problem I was having earlier.
Yeah.
That's all right.
What about the rest of the cast? Are they unknowns, or is this their first film?
No. So yeah, the cast themselves, like I said, they're all seasoned professionals from up here in Pittsburgh. So we've got James Leary first and foremost, who's from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've worked with James before, and he's just absolutely amazing. But then beyond that, we've got Jess Euler, who's a local actress here, Brian Saponis, Rick Dutro, Stephanie Swift, and then we've got, like I said, a few other people that are newcomers to making movies, but do not let that fool you. I mean, they are absolutely talented. Sierra Mitchell's one of our leads, Christina Kowski. They are amazing, and their screen tests alone, like I said, just off of that, I was like, you're perfect. This is exactly who I needed for that role. But yeah, they're most of the people that we have here are local. There's some people that are flying in from Texas that I've worked with before. And I know what they bring to the table, and they're amazing. So, like I said, we've got such a diverse cast, and it's, like I said, and it's all people who are fans of the genre, and they understand they understand what goes into making a horror movie and how to sell, screaming, the blood and the guts and all that stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to get on set because I know we're gonna have a good time.
Right. I think Aaron's back in. I think he's joining on his phone. Aaron, can you hear us?
Is that
yes?
Do you have any questions that you probably didn't get to ask earlier?
I mean, golly, y'all probably covered a lot because I was absent.
So my name is Mark. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
How are you?
No, I see that the following's great on the group. I know y'all talked about some previous projects you were already involved in. I thought the superhero thing was a neat idea. I hadn't seen that one. I kind of dabbled a little bit into what you did previous, but I know Carey asked what got you into directing and all that stuff. I didn't really, but now I'm just excited for the film. So what made you come up with this idea, I guess? I don't know if he asked you that.
He did, yeah, but I'll kind of go over it again. But yeah, I was just letting him know that it was really kind of, it just grew out of a love of wanting to fall back in love with making movies after having kind of a hard personal time in my life. But falling back in love with movies, wanting to have everything be practical. And then, like I said, just kind of going down the list of like, what are the things that make me me, and thinking about 80s style, which is even just in my personal life, like that's part of me anyway. So I'm that douchebag that walks around with aviators and like, get out of here. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. They look amazing. But yeah, like I said, it was really just part of it selfishly is me just trying to say, here's who I am as a person, and just trying to put that on the screen as well. So.
All right, so I know that like I remember when the Indiegogo campaign started, and of course it was before the pandemic. So I know that that's had a pretty big impact on probably starting the actual filming and everything. So how do you think that even when we come out of this pandemic, how do you think that it's going to change independent filmmaking? Or like, are you learning anything new or new ways to do stuff because of?
Yeah, absolutely. At this particular point, obviously safety is a major issue. And we've kind of looked and we've taken some of our cues from, I know we've had some people point out that Nevada's already opened up, like they've submitted permits for filmmaking already. They're giving permits, I should say, for filmmaking already. And then other states are starting to kind of open up with slightly eased restrictions. So we're kind of taking our cues off of that and saying, okay, well, let's make sure we have, breaks for sanitizing and for hand washing consistently. And then really, honestly, it's just kind of about keeping our numbers down on set as well, and just trying to say, okay, I know, there's the thought of we have to have 20 people on set because I need to have 10 production assistants and I need to have this and I do that. And looking at it and just going, we can get away with only 8 people on set. We've got to have somebody dedicated to sound. We've got to have, but at the end of the day, I do my own lighting. I shoot anyway, and it really is about me being more prepared on set. I've already sent out shot lists. We're 3 months away, and I've already got shot lists. I've already got what color temperature I'm going to be at, and so it's really just kind of working through and just saying I don't need 10 people to do that job for me. I've already done it. So it just kind of, and it kind of speaks to that indie guerrilla filmmaking spirit anyway, that kind of have. But like I said, just trying to be as safe as possible, because we even had our autograph session the other day with our actresses. And even then, like I said, we wanted to keep that to a minimum as much as possible. So like I said, so we've tried to keep our numbers down and say, let's not risk anybody, if we don't have to. So.
I think a question that was raised earlier on Facebook that I saw was, how are they going to film sex scenes from now on?
Right. Very carefully. You know what? Just do it very creatively, a forced perspective, maybe.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing you've been posting a lot of test footage of your I guess your new camera and some lenses.
Yeah. We've gotten really lucky.
What camera do you have that you're using for this film?
So we're going to wind up actually shooting on the Canon C100, which has just blown my socks off. So like I said, it's I won't get too nerdy and technical on it, but like I said, it's a beast of a camera, and we're actually pairing it with anamorphic lenses. So to me, like I said, that's always been a hallmark of 80s filmmaking anyway, is the anamorphic look and the bokeh and the streaks, the flares and things like that. So we've gotten really lucky with some of the equipment that's kind of fallen into our lap. So, but yeah, like I said, we've just for what we can do with that camera, and I'm already in love with it. So.
You can get geeky with it because I'm geeky about stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. I came to the right place. There you go. But yeah, it's the fact that, like I said, there's so much included in that one camera. It's such a workhorse. It's got neutral density filters. It's a Super 35 sensor. So it's giving us shallow depth of field. There's so much control that you have of your image now. And I was fully prepared to shoot DSLRs at one point, and we had a chance to go out and get this, out of our own pocket, and it was like, kind of have to, like, this is a necessity, So, and luckily, I mean, I wish we were shooting 4K. We just don't have the budget for it, or the workspace, the workflow for it. Like I said, it eats up so much space in your computer. I personally can't afford to do that. So like I said, but the Canon C100 is perfectly fine. It does the job how I want it. So
I recently picked up a 58 millimeter telephoto lens for my phone. It's made by that company Moment. You ever heard of them?
I haven't heard of that. No.
Yeah, it just is a little. Here, I'll show it to you. It's a little lens, just attaches right to the phone case. Let me get it out here. It's in a little case here.
See, I've seen anamorphic lenses. There's a company called VidAtlantic. They actually make them for your phone. They make little anamorphics. So I'm wondering if is it kind of like that?
See?
There you go.
It's a 58 millimeter.
That is amazing.
And it just snaps right on the back of the phone case. They have a special phone case that holds it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. See, and that's the other thing too. Like I said, in helping keep our numbers down. I mean, there's so much technology out there. Like I said, we can kind of get away with having fewer people on set as long as you work smart. And that speaks to it right there. I mean, that's just amazing. So that wasn't there 10, 15 years ago. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Aaron, you got any other questions?
Not really. I wish I didn't have these problems, man.
Aaron's like, get him off. Get him off now.
I know. I just no, I always say I admire people that just go in and they make their movie. They just get an idea, they put it out there, and I've seen different people. They got different, it seems to be. I'm not going to say a trend, but a lot of people are making these movies that are that meant something to them. Seeing Jason and Freddy and all that stuff, and they're like, man, I want to make my own slasher because I mean. If you're a horror fan, you want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
You can't fault anybody for trying that. And I actually love it. I really do. And I always ask, like, how did you come up with, I always find it interesting, like the different looks that that people come up with for the killers and their weapons and stuff. I mean, what kind of inspired you for the look of the Carney, I guess, is he Carney or Mr. Carney?
Carney the killer clown. Yeah.
Carney the killer clown.
Yeah, that's what we've affectionately named him. So honestly, like it was the silhouette. That's what I started off with. And it was the color scheme. The one that's always stuck with me the most is the color scheme for which doesn't feel like it hasn't really changed much anyway, but specifically the way Michael Myers looked in Halloween 4. It's that kind of the white face and the kind of bluer, coveralls or overalls, whatever he's wearing there, but jumpsuit. And it's just the way that all looked to me, like I said, that was the first kind of silhouette. I want that particular color scheme for sure. But then in terms of the face, like, we were coming just off of It at the time, and I was like, well, maybe clowns are cool, and but you wanted it to look different. You wanted it to look kind of fucked up and weird and craggly. But to be fair, like I said, I actually wound up I found just before we came on, I actually found my little book that I wrote. Like, this is my little sketchbook from 2017. Oh, wow. And I literally, these were the first sketches that I put up together of the guy. And so when I put these together, I was just like, this is kind of what I'm seeing in my face, in my mind's eye. And then Miranda, like I said, God bless her, she just took it and went, I got it, don't worry about it, I know what you're talking about. And she created that thing, and she added so many different little nuances to it. And originally, I think, like I said, if you look at the sketches, like I've got like a clown nose on him. And she was like, well, what if we went with actual human nose? And she kind of turned it up a little bit to where it has like almost like a pig feel to it. And it's little things like that where I'm like, I would have never thought to do that. But that's amazing. Like, and it looks different. It looks weird and it looks gross. And you're like, it's just kind of, it's human, but it's not human. And it's like, it's asymmetrical. Like his ears are just slightly off a little bit. And, you know, that's the look of the mask is all Miranda. Like I said, I gave her a basic starting off point, and she just took it and ran from there. So.
No, I really dig it. Yeah, I really dig the look. And, you know, just like you said, you know, growing up, seeing all this stuff, I mean, everybody's influenced by it, but you make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people are doing, and I respect them for it. I really do.
Well,
As you, I mean, I respect you for that as well. I mean, it's just, you get an idea, you come out with it and say, you know, here it is. I've seen the following. It looks great. I mean, we're behind it 100%.
and we appreciate that. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, kind of jumping off of what you're talking about, just kind of making it your own. It is one of those things where you kind of have to say, yeah, here's the genre, here's the sandbox I want to play in, but why is this so special? What is it about that makes it me? And you got to bring you to the table eventually. And one of those things, like I said, I mean, I don't think I've sent you guys copies of the script or anything, but like there's a few twists and turns. I mean, so it's not just a straightforward, you know, slasher. So we've got some twists and turns, and, you know, like I said, and that speaks to how I want to kind of surprise audiences and kind of keep everybody on their feet. But, you know, at the end of the day, you got to love the genre first before you can kind of jump off of the stereotypical things in the genre, the tropes. Because if you don't understand those things and you don't love them, it comes off as cynical. It comes off as just kind of like, oh, it's tongue in cheek and they don't really mean it and they're kind of being silly about it. And to me, I'm like, no, you have to really fucking love the genre. You have to love what you're making and then go, yeah, but I'm going to tweak it and make it go this way instead of that way. You know, so.
Yeah, and like you said, you gotta love it, because then you fall into the realm. And we've seen these movies where people are just biting off of it because it's the popular thing, and you're like, what? That just left me unsatisfied.
And it feels
you know, it
cheap,
just,
and it feels like not to be disrespectful, but yeah, I mean, it does feel like, yeah, your heart's not really in it, and you guys are kind of just trying to make a quick buck, and I get it, and you know, it's a business.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, I want people to any movie I ever make, and I want to fucking mean it first. You know, I want to be able to make a movie and go, I don't care what you say, like that's all me up there. That's definitely my heart, my voice, like everything. And then people look at it and then they meet you and go, yeah, that's you. That's fucking you up there. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, hopefully that comes across once we're at the premiere and it's on DVD and out in the world. So,
what do you think is going to be the hardest part of doing the movie set in the 80s?
The urge to populate it with a badass soundtrack, because that's so expensive. You know, honestly, like it was one of those things where I was listening. Like I've got a playlist in my back office where I drive my kids and my wife crazy with, you know, looping music over and over again, and it's fucking St. Elmo's Fire and, you know, Lost Boys songs.
Yeah.
And to me, like I said, like that's what movies in the 80s had. They had awesome soundtracks. And to me, that's the only thing that I look at with the movie. I'm like, we're just not going to be able to do that because it's just so. The amount of money. I inquired, just to show you how far we were going to go with everything. I inquired because one of our lead characters, Maggie, she's a film student. She's an 80s film student, and she's a director, and she's a damn good one. And she's got the classics up on her wall. And in the script, it's written that she's got a Jaws poster, you know, kind of in the background. And so I was like, how the fuck are we going to clear that? And so I actually called, I didn't call, but I emailed out to like Universal and the property owners, the license owner, how you license it. And I was like, how much would it cost to have that poster in the background? And they were like, well, it starts at $1,000. And I was like, yeah, I love Jaws, but not that much. I'm like, so I'd rather that $1,000 go towards, you know, a day of shooting and, you know, put it somewhere else, you know.
You know, you think like everybody starts somewhere, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You want your money. Right. I get it. I respect you for it. But my God, when you made your money hand over fist,
you were the first summer blockbuster. I think
someone $1,000.
You've made some money. Yeah, exactly.
Holy crap! Just for a Jaws poster, just to show that.
Yeah.
hey, you influenced me somehow.
Right. And again, it's just, it's out of love, but yeah, like it's one of those things where you write things because you love them, but then the business kicks in and you go, yeah, but in reality, is that going to be, how are we going to do that?
You could probably get
Sharknado
poster for free.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? I got an idea. Just have a shark, kind of like Jaws, but call it fins or
right,
something.
Something really terrible, right? Well, and that's why we started to go back and we started making our own posters. And I put up one of my daughter, and it's supposed to be like a really shitty. In our world, it's kind of like almost like, what is it, Red Apple cigarettes with Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah,
it's like his little brand of whatever that is. So I went and I was like, you know what? Then fuck it. We're gonna make our own little universe, and we're gonna have there's this own little self-contained reality. And so in the background in one of the scenes, we're gonna actually have there's a poster for a movie called Fire Igniter instead of like Firestarter. And it's and it's my daughter, and it's it's her little cameo, and there's fire around her, and
that's
I tried
awesome.
to mock it up like a little shitty VHS cassette cover that you would have seen back in the day. And
hey, you got to do what you got to do. I guess.
To me, it's a more creative solution anyway. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. It's a blessing in disguise because I get to put even more of me up there now. So
Yeah. This is
so. Speaking of music, what type of music are you going to have in the film?
You know what? I usually wind up waiting till the last second on that, to be honest with you, because I will tempt the shit out of a score, and I will sit there and I will choreograph. To like there's one bit in the movie that I've kind of choreographed in my mind's eye towards, or the piece of music is from Minority Report, and it's a piece of John Williams music, and I love it. But I know we're never going to use that. We're not going to clear that, obviously. But that's the kind of like sound that I have in my head. But then once we get there and we shoot it and we start to edit it, it takes on a life of its own. And I have no idea what that is going to require of a soundtrack at that point. So like I said, so I know what my wish list sounds like. And so like I said, so I try not to get that far ahead of myself with music because I'm so terrible at music. Like I couldn't even explain like how things are supposed to sound really. So I know what I hear, but I can't explain it. So, but yeah, music, like I said, it'd be great to have some of the things that I've got in my head, but it's just way too much money. So.
What about the 80s wardrobe? How easy you think it's gonna be to get?
Surprisingly well, like it's things have fallen into place. There were things that we already had in stock anyway. We had some older jackets that kind of fit the time period. But oddly enough, every 20 or 30 years, you get this weird cycle of everybody being nostalgic and everybody kind of going back to what was cool 30 years ago when they grew up. And it just so happens that a lot of people are having 80s style parties now, and they're, oh yeah, let's have a big sweater party and let's do this. So like you literally go to Goodwill, you go to Salvation Army, and that is everywhere. And it's like people just getting rid of their stuff. And I'm just like, oh, this is all for me. Okay, cool, great. And it's so easy to find stuff. And then you look at, some of the other things that we've put them in. One of the notes that I gave to the girls especially is I told them, if you look at the posters, this is kind of where we adhered to it. I told them, I said, your last outfits, which is what they're wearing in the posters, I said, the outfits you have on for the last half of the movie, I told him, I said, honestly, I don't want them to be extremely time specific. Like I want people to be able to look at that and go, well, this could be now, and I want it to have a bit of a timeless kind of feel in terms of the costuming. Because if you look at some 80s movies, like some things do translate even to today. And you're like, wow, that I can see somebody wearing that today. And it feels like a modern movie still. But then obviously you see like big hair and stuff and you're like, oh yeah, we're in 85, 87. So. But yeah, we've gotten really lucky with some of the fashion stuff. Like I said, we've been able to kind of pull out of nowhere and flea markets and stuff like that. So
that's cool. So let's go back to the killer. Is the killer going to talk, or is it going to be a silent killer? Or can you say you don't know? Okay.
Know. What do you think? Let's start there instead. I don't know.
I'm kind of hoping he doesn't talk, but I feel like he probably will.
I'm thinking more of a silent.
Yeah.
That's what when I look at him, I think of him as, like you said, you kind of drew the inspiration from Michael Myers.
Right.
Michael Myers doesn't say
Yeah.
anything. He just lets his weapon do the
The
talking
Shape
for him.
and Jason Voorhees, not a word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So is the
Hey, perfect.
is your Indiegogo campaign, is it still going on, or is that one? Is
He
that one
actually finished probably about a month and a half ago.
okay?
So we're pretty much done there. We've had some people contact us privately and still want to come on as producers and stuff like that. So we've still kind of honored some of the perks and all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, we wrapped up, and again, it's one of those weird karma things where, like I said, for me personally, I always feel like, well, if your head's in the right space and your heart's in the right place and your intentions are good, at some point the universe is going to take care of you. You know, we had pretty successful campaign. Like I said, we didn't get all the way to, you know, where we needed to be, but we had enough to go, you know what, we can shoot, you know, the first 7 to 8 days, whatever the schedule will allow for at that point, and then we'll figure out the rest. And literally on the last day, you know, we had a producer, his name's Thomas Parker. He came out of literally nowhere and was just like, hey, you know, can we talk privately? And, you know, now he's going to be the main producer on the movie, and he's
Wow.
taking care of quite a bit. So like I said, so we got so lucky with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, like I said, so it wasn't contributing to the Indiegogo campaign, but outside of that, like we met what we needed, you know, plus more. So like I said, so it's been a godsend. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I got in on the I got the information movie database, whatever it's called, whatever you call it there.
Yeah.
IMDb.
The
Shout
credit.
out, yeah, credit. I got that for the show, so that
Yeah.
will you still be offering, like, after the movie comes out? Will the DVDs be for sale?
Yeah, so that's going to be part of moving forward. Like, part of the strategy is because one of the things that I've learned from distribution, if you don't have the right distributor behind you, you're going to get fucked. Like they're literally looking just to fuck you over sometimes, and it's like, you know, and they switch hands with the property so many times, and you're like, wait, where's my movie at now? Like, and you know, they keep things away from you. So like I said, so I told Thomas, I told, you know, a bunch of our other producers, I want to have as much control as possible before we sign this over for distribution and we give it away to somebody else. And part of that component is having things for sale the night of the premieres, the night of screenings, and going, oh yeah, that movie you just watched, you can buy it out in the lobby for, you know, $10 or whatever the case is. And to me, that feels more special, you know, just being able to see the cast, meet the cast, they're there with you. You can talk to them about the movie, and then they turn around and go, oh yeah, you know, you can buy the movie for your friends if you want, and you can buy 2 or 3 copies. So, so we definitely want to have things like that, plus posters and things like that. So it's definitely part of the business plan moving forward, is to have that stuff readily available the moment we have our first premiere. So
Now, is it going to premiere in Pittsburgh?
that will be the first one. Yeah.
All right, I may have to drive up there for that.
Well, where are you at? We'll come to you.
I'm in West Virginia. I'm in West Virginia, so
You're not that far. Yeah, we'll come
no,
down.
no, it's not that far.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, and honestly, like I said, we've already talked about maybe doing like Cleveland, Philadelphia, maybe having a couple in Washington, D.C. So I mean, like, we're not against driving and traveling at all. So like I said, so if you want us down in West Virginia, we'll be there.
All right,
Absolutely.
cool. We'll get that set up then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a good episode. Before we wrap it up here, do you want to give some shout outs to anybody, or give us some social media information?
Literally,
where
no
people
one
can find
deserves
you?
my shout outs. No,
Okay.
I don't, no, you guys invited me. I'm not going to let them piggyback on my time
There
with
you
you
go.
guys. No. Honestly, like I said, if you are a fan of 80s horror movies, Massacre Academy on Instagram, Massacre_Academy, if I'm not mistaken. Facebook's Massacre Academy. There's a Massacre Academy official fan page out there as well. Like I said, and look up our cast, look up our crew. They are some of the hardest working people I've met, and like I said, we're just getting started. So, and thank you to all of our contributors that were on the Go campaign as well. Like I said, we literally can't do any of this without them either. So thank you guys for supporting everything that we do too. So
Yeah, no problem. it was a joy talking to you. Hopefully we can probably get you back on closer to the film's release.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we can probably encourage one or two of our actors to come on board as well.
All right, that'd be nice.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.